In an absurdly vast and mind-bendingly improbable universe where hyper-intelligent mice run experiments, bureaucratic aliens demolish planets, and the answer to life, the universe, and everything is, well, 42, one name stands above all in the art of cosmic comedy: Douglas Adams. From the moment The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy first broadcast on radio waves, Adams redefined science fiction, blending razor-sharp wit with existential absurdity. His universe is one where the most advanced species are too busy filing paperwork, where a melancholic robot can outthink an entire planet, and where the most crucial piece of advice ever given is simply, don't panic. But Adams' genius didn't stop at hitchhiking through the cosmos. Whether through the dimension-hopping mysteries of Dirk Gently's holistic detective agency, or his philosophical musings on life, technology, and tea, his works have left an indelible mark on storytelling. So, grab your towel, engage the infinite improbability drive, and join us as we embark on a deep dive into the wit, wisdom, and wonderfully weird worlds of Douglas Adams. Because in this universe, the only thing more absurd than reality is missing out on a good story.
All right, buckle up, everybody, because today we're going on a trip through space, time, and some of the most brilliantly absurd comedy ever written. That's right, we're diving into The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy,
Douglas Adams' masterpiece.
a sci-fi classic that's as funny as it is thought-provoking. And for this deep dive, we're focusing specifically on the first novel from 1979, the one that introduced us to, well, the answer to life, the universe, and everything.
And towels. Don't forget the towels.
Oh, right, of course. Towels are essential. Now, whether you're a seasoned hitchhiker or you're just starting your journey through the galaxy, I think we can all agree that Adams' work is, well, something special.
It's definitely unique. A blend of science fiction, philosophy, and just pure silliness.
Exactly. So we're going to explore all of that today, from the destruction of Earth to make way for a hyperspace bypass, to the poetry-loving Vogons, to the two-headed, three-armed galactic president, Zaphod Beeblebrox.
We'll meet a clinically depressed robot, discover the planet that makes other planets, and maybe, just maybe, we'll even figure out the ultimate question.
Okay, that's a lot to cover. But like any good hitchhiker, we're going to take it one step at a time. So let's start at the very beginning, with a perfectly ordinary Englishman named Arthur Dent.
Living a perfectly ordinary life in a perfectly ordinary house. Until, that is, his house is scheduled for demolition.
To make way for, you guessed it, a bypass. Except, as we quickly learn, it's not just any bypass. It's a hyperspace bypass being built by, well, let's just say some rather unpleasant aliens.
The Vogons, a bureaucratic race who are about as charming as a tax audit, and their poetry, let's just say it's not going to win any awards.
You know, I've always wondered about that. Like, is their poetry objectively bad, or is it just our human ears that find it so grating?
It's a good question, and I think Adams is playing with that idea that art is subjective, that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, or in this case, the ear of the listener.
I guess that's what makes the Vogons so funny. They're so utterly convinced of their own brilliance, even though their poetry is literally painful to listen to.
It's a brilliant satire of bureaucracy and the dangers of blind adherence to rules and regulations. The Vogons are so caught up in their procedures, their paperwork, that they've lost sight of any kind of common sense or compassion.
And unfortunately for Arthur and his friend, Ford Prefect, they get a front row seat to a Vogon poetry reading that's so awful, it actually gets them ejected from the spaceship.
Talk about a bad review, but this ejection is actually a blessing in disguise, because it leads them to the heart of gold.
A spaceship powered by the infinite improbability drive, captained by the aforementioned Zaphod Beeblebrox, and crewed by a motley bunch of, well, let's just say interesting characters.
Like Trillian, the astrophysicist who Arthur once met at a party back on Earth, and Marvin, the perpetually gloomy robot who's basically a walking, talking existential crisis.
Marvin is my spirit animal. But wait, back up a second. How does Arthur even know an alien in the first place? I mean, this all started with his house being demolished for a bypass.
Well, that's where Ford Prefect comes in. Turns out, He's not just Arthur's eccentric friend. He's actually an alien researcher who's been stranded on Earth for the past 15 years.
And he was writing a guidebook.
Exactly. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which, as we learn, actually exists within the story itself. It's like a metafictional layer cake.
Okay, that's pretty wild. Yeah. So Ford knows Earth is about to be destroyed, rescues Arthur, and they end up hitching a ride on a stolen spaceship.
That's the gist of it. And their journey takes them to some pretty amazing and often very strange places, like Magrathea, the planet that makes other planets.
Wait, what? A planet that makes planets, like custom-designed planets for the ultra-rich.
That's exactly it. Think of it as the ultimate luxury real estate. And it's on Magrathea that we meet Fast, a planet designer who's quite proud of his work on Earth's fjords.
Fast, that's an actual name. And he makes fjords. I'm not sure what's more bizarre, the name or the profession.
It's all part of Adams's charm. But Fast reveals something truly mind-blowing. He tells Arthur that Earth wasn't just any planet. It was a giant computer designed to calculate the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything.
Okay, hold on. So Earth was a computer, and it was destroyed 5 minutes before it could finish calculating the ultimate question. That's just bad luck, right?
That's one way to look at it, but it also raises some interesting questions about fate, free will, and the meaning of it all. I mean, if Earth was a computer, what does that say about our place in the universe? Were we just pawns in some grand cosmic experiment?
And what about the answer to the ultimate question? Did anyone ever figure that out?
Well, that's where things get even weirder. A supercomputer named Deep Thought did calculate the answer, but the answer was 42.
42, that's it. After 7.5 million years of calculations, the answer to the ultimate question is a random number.
It's not random, it's 42. And that's the beauty of it. It's this seemingly meaningless answer that forces us to question everything. What is the question? Why are we here? What's the point of it all?
So we've got a destroyed planet, a meaningless answer, and a bunch of eccentric aliens traveling through space in a stolen spaceship. What could possibly happen next?
Oh, you have no idea. But I guess you'll just have to wait for part 2 to find out.
I hate cliffhangers. But I guess that's the hitchhiker's life for you?
Yeah.
Always on the move, always searching for the next adventure.
So we left off with our heroes facing a rather unique dilemma: how to stop a race of robots who are essentially terrified of the universe from, well, destroying it.
Yeah, the Cricket Wars.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like the title of a bad sci-fi movie. But then again, this whole story is kind of a bad sci-fi movie in the best way possible.
Oh, absolutely. Adams revels in that absurdity. He takes these big existential questions and wraps them in layers of humor and satire, so you're laughing even as you're contemplating the meaning of life.
Or the meaninglessness of it all, depending on your perspective. Speaking for perspective, I'm still stuck on those cricket robots. Like, how do you even reason with beings who want to obliterate everything just because it makes them anxious?
You don't, not in the conventional sense. And that's where Adam's genius shines through. The solution to the cricket problem isn't about force or diplomacy, it's about perspective.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Well, they essentially trick the cricket robots. They create a pocket universe, a kind of giant snow globe, if you will, where the robots can wage their war against illusions without actually harming the real universe.
So they're basically fighting holograms. That's so meta. It's like giving a kid a toy gun to play with while the adults deal with the real dangers.
Exactly. It plays on the cricket robots' delusions, allowing them to believe they're conquering the universe while keeping everyone else safe. And it highlights a recurring theme in Adam's work, the power of perception.
It's like that saying, we don't see the world as it is, we see it as we are. The cricket robots are so consumed by fear that they create a reality that justifies their actions.
And it makes you think about our own perceptions, our own biases. How much of what we believe is shaped by our fears and anxieties?
A lot, probably. But let's not get too deep into the philosophical weeds here. We still have a lot of ground to cover. What happens after the Cricket Wars? Do our heroes finally get a break? Maybe a nice vacation on a planet with beaches and no existential threats?
Not exactly. The universe, as we know, is rarely that accommodating. They do eventually part ways, each pursuing their own paths. Zaphod, ever the restless spirit, disappears on some grand, undefined adventure. Trillian continues her work as a researcher, exploring the cosmos and its many mysteries. And Marvin, well, Marvin continues to be Marvin, grumbling about the futility of existence wherever he goes.
It's like the universe's ultimate sad clown. Always there to remind us that even amidst the wonders of space travel and alien encounters, life can still be a bit of a downer.
Oh, absolutely. But I think that's what makes Adams's work so relatable. He doesn't shy away from those darker, more cynical aspects of the human experience. He incorporates them into his stories, reminding us that even in a universe as vast and absurd as this one, we all share certain universal anxieties.
The fear of the unknown, the search for meaning, the occasional bout of cosmic dread. It's all there, wrapped up in a package of witty dialogue and outlandish scenarios.
Precisely. And that brings us back to Arthur Dent, our everyman hero, who finds himself on a version of prehistoric Earth.
Wait, what? Prehistoric Earth? Didn't Earth get blown up to make way for that hyperspace bypass?
It did. But as Ford explained earlier, there are these temporal anomalies, space-time instabilities that can fling objects, even people, through time.
Okay, so time travel. That explains a lot. But why send Arthur back to prehistoric Earth? What's the purpose of that?
It's never explicitly stated, but there's a sense that Arthur is meant to be there, that his journey is far from over.
Maybe he's supposed to learn something from these early humans, something about the origins of civilization, about the fundamental nature of humanity.
Or maybe he's just there to teach them how to play Scrabble.
Scrabble? Really? Of all the things he could teach them, he chooses Scrabble.
Well, it's Arthur, isn't it? Even facing down prehistoric beasts and grappling with existential questions, he finds comfort in the familiar, in the routine.
I guess that's part of his charm, his relatability. He's not some fearless space explorer. He's just an average guy trying to navigate this crazy, unpredictable universe.
And in doing so, he reminds us that even in the face of the absurd, the mundane can be a source of solace.
Okay, so we've got Arthur on prehistoric Earth trying to figure out what it all means. What about Fenchurch? You know, the girl who could fly, the one who seemed to understand Arthur in a way no one else could. Do they ever meet again? Do they, like, run off together and have a bunch of little flying babies?
Fenchurch, the embodiment of freedom, of unbridled joy. Their relationship is one of the most intriguing aspects of Arthur's journey. She represents a kind of escape from the weight of the universe, a reminder that even amidst the chaos, there's still room for wonder and delight.
But do they ever reunite? After all that they've been through, do they find their way back to each other?
That, my friend, is a question that Adams leaves unanswered. It's like he's inviting us to imagine our own ending, to ponder the possibilities. Do they meet again? Do they continue their separate journeys?
It's a classic Adams move, leaving us hanging, wanting more.
But it's also a testament to the enduring power of his work. It sparks our imaginations, keeps us thinking, keeps us asking questions long after we finish the last page.
So while we may never know for certain what becomes of Arthur and Fenchurch, we can be sure that their adventures, like the universe itself, continue to unfold in ways we can only imagine. Last time, things got a little heavy. I mean, talking about robots who are scared of the universe trying to destroy it all, that's some deep stuff.
It is, isn't it? But that's Douglas Adams for you. He takes these huge philosophical concepts, fear, isolation, the search for meaning, and he turns them into something funny, something we can all relate to, even if it involves, galactic scale destruction.
Right, because who hasn't felt a little overwhelmed by the universe sometimes? Like it's all just so big and we're so small, it's enough to make you want to crawl under the covers and hide.
Exactly. And the cricket robots, they take that feeling to the extreme. They literally want to eliminate the universe because it's just too much for them to handle.
Which, okay, I get it, kind of. But destroying everything seems a bit drastic, don't you think?
Well, that's the point, isn't it? It's satire. Adams is using this absurd scenario to highlight the absurdity of fear, of our tendency to lash out when we feel threatened, even if the threat is, well, the very existence of the universe.
So how do our heroes stop these cosmic agoraphobics from, ending all of existence?
Well, that's the brilliant part. They don't fight them in the traditional sense. They understand that the cricket robot's fear is rooted in a skewed perception of reality. So they create a reality that caters to that fear, a pocket universe where the cricket robots can wage their war against illusions without actually harming anyone.
So they're basically playing a giant cosmic video game.
In a way, yes. It's a way of containing their destructive impulses without resorting to violence, which I think speaks to a larger message in the book, that understanding and empathy can be more powerful weapons than brute force.
Okay, but what about the rest of the universe?
Yeah.
What about Arthur and his friends? What happens to them after the cricket wars are over?
Well, like many things in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the ending is left somewhat open to interpretation. We know that the characters go their separate ways, each continuing their journey through the universe in their own way. Arthur finds himself back on a version of Earth, trying to make sense of his place in this new reality.
And what about Fenchurch? The girl who could fly. They seem perfect for each other. Do they ever meet again?
Adams hints at a possible reunion, but ultimately he leaves it up to the reader to decide. It's a bittersweet note to end on. This idea that even in the vastness of space, connections can be made, love can bloom, but sometimes paths diverge, and we have to find our own way.
It's kind of a reflection of life, isn't it?
Yeah.
Full of unexpected twists and turns, moments of joy and moments of sadness, and the constant search for meaning in a universe that often seems to have none.
That's the beauty of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's a story that embraces the absurdity of it all, the chaos, the confusion, and somehow, amidst all of that, finds a glimmer of hope, a sense of wonder, and a reminder that even when things seem utterly pointless, there's still beauty to be found, laughter to be shared, and maybe, just maybe, a towel to help you through it all.
So if you haven't already, I highly recommend picking up a copy of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's a wild ride, a journey through space and time, and a hilarious exploration of what it means to be human in a universe that often feels decidedly unhuman. And who knows, maybe you'll even figure out the ultimate question. And if you do, please let us know, because I'm still stuck on 42. Don't panic, and thanks for listening.